Hello and welcome on this beautiful, beautiful Saturday. We're going to get right to it. Apologize for running a few minutes late. Had some logistical issues. Issues make tissues. So go ahead and dry your tears and we're going to get right to it. Without further ado, I would like to introduce three wonderful people. There they are that are actually going to teach us the path to true sovereignty. Let me welcome the lovely Mark Attwood,
Hello, Lewis.
the beautiful and muscular, as I found out, Gary,
Hey, Lewis, good to see you again. Pleasure to be here.
and the wonderful Nash, not from one of my favorite songs, Beep Beep the Nash Rambler, but it is Nash also that is with us. Welcome, gentlemen. Nash, how you doing?
Doing well.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent. So, Mark, how about you start us off and let's just get right to this, folks, because this is fascinating.
Well, okay, so stepping outside of the matrix is something that everybody's at a certain point in their life with right now, especially in the last 5 years. For me, it started with not paying my TV license in the UK about 12 years ago, and the bailiffs came to the door. I'd already decided I was not going to pay any more taxes to the UK government. I was not going to pay any TV license. And as they came to the door, I was holding my phone shaking, recording them, and I learned this line. And the line was, I revoke your implied right of access to this property, please leave. And I couldn't believe it. I remembered it. And even more than that, I couldn't believe the guy turned around and walked off the property. And then I went over to him and he kept saying, are you Mark Attwood? And I said, well, I'm not answering that question because I knew back then that if you do answer that, you're in a contract with them and that they're acting completely unlawfully. I knew enough then. And this was a big step. And what actually happened with him was he said, I said, but if I was Mark Attwood, the reason why I wouldn't pay this TV license is because according to subsection 16 of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2006, if you are knowingly supporting an organization that supports terrorism, that's breaking the law. And the BBC reported on Trade Center 7 falling 20 minutes before it actually happened. Therefore, I would be supporting people supporting terrorism. That's why I'm not going to pay if I was Mark Attwood. And he looked at me and went, I'm not going to get any money out of you today, am I? And he drove off. And that was a big moment for me. And since COVID, Gary here and I set up Live 5D Health, which you've visited now in Ireland. And we knew when we set it up it's 2.5 years ago now, we had set up as a private members association because we knew we had to be out in the system, but not in the system. And Gary's done a lot of work on this. I've done a bit of work on this of extricating ourselves and sending notices to the bishop, to the prime minister, to the president, etc., saying, we're not partaking in your system. Thank you very much, and you've got 30 days to reply, etc., and all that kind of stuff. And we have, we've got 800 franchise inquiries for Live 5D Health, but we want people to understand that we're trying to create a network, a decentralized network of self-funded physical locations run by in the private. And what's happened since we set the healing center up is that there's not just a place where people can heal and it's donation based, so if people can't afford it, it's free or whatever, if you can afford it, you pay for it, but it's a 5D business model, we think. It's also a place where people can trade in the private, talk freely, etc., etc. So this journey for me personally has been one of, I never wanted to be a lawyer. I find the whole thing very dry and very boring, but it is extremely, extremely important that we get more of a grip on what it means to operate in the private and, not play by their bullshit maritime law system, which is basically run on fear. I mean, I did a meme 12 years ago saying the world was run by red ink and yellow paint because, if you've got yellow paint on the road, you're going to get fined. And if you get a letter with red ink, most people just capitulate and pay immediately because they've been trained to do that through the whole system has trained them to be slaves, believing in the nonsense. And we all know about the birth certificate being a bond, really. And the parents are con, the baby's con, the baby doesn't know anything about it, and you're basically agreeing to represent a corporation, a straw man that isn't really you. And so we've gone deeper and deeper and deeper into it as we've gone along. Myself and Gary ran a course called Sovereign Mastery about 18 months ago with a friend of ours in the UK called Peter Wilson, and that was a fantastic course. But going through the process of teaching other people this and going through the process of doing it yourself, you do find yourself having to unlearn a lot of things and then learn new words and but it's really a spiritual journey. It's a very, very spiritual journey. And one of the funny things about that course we did 18 months ago is that I think it was like 5 weeks into it where everybody had it all explained to them that everything we're teaching you to do is in the private. And then somebody would come on and go, well, what do I tell my accountant? And we go, nothing. It's in the private, and it's like teaching this stuff is really important. And through that process of looking, talking to some of the franchise applications, one in particular came up. We had a meeting about 6 months ago with one in the States, and Nash was on that call, and Gary and I were just blown away by Nash's knowledge. And I'll let Nash and Gary explain that further. But we were so blown away by it that Gary said, well, we've got to do a course on this because we've got all these people that need, that are part of our network. I mean, it's not just the podcast, people who watch the podcast. Everybody should be doing this or should be learning how to do this. So we decided to run a course called The True Path to Sovereignty, which Nash is going to lead, supported by me and Gary. And we're going to use Live 5D Health as a kind of case study for everybody as well, so that they can learn and see, even we know that we're actually quite advanced, but we're still students. And Nash has been doing this for a very long time, and we're big fans of his, and that's why we put this course together. That's my introduction. Over to you.
Yeah, well, I'll jump on next because I think everybody in this conscious aware movement, in this, great awakening, which you can talk about what that actually means, but intuitively we all know that the system has been corrupted. Even as kids growing up, you realize that it's nothing like you've ever been told, yet you do have no choice. You have to comply. Otherwise nothing works. And then, for me, I kind of have been living like that kind of rebel life in terms of finance and tax, where it just didn't feel right. So I did everything I could not to be involved in it, but with none of the actual acumen or paperwork or understanding of how to actually avoid it. It was just literally avoiding and trying to pivot away from it the whole time. And when I used to see the guys on YouTube and Twitter, when the copper would come up to the window and they would just speak back to them like perfectly confident, quoting parts of the Constitution, parts of legal law, all this, and shutting this guy down. It's like this unbelievable superpower. And then as our journey with Live 5D came, it was just, there was no choice but to do it this way. I mean, people, when they come into Live 5D, have to sign a private members form to show they're going from the public to the private. And, most people don't necessarily understand that. But when I say, because of, our disagreement around the whole mandates around COVID, that if we're treating people who aren't that well, and there's another one of those lockdowns for whatever reason, we won't have to close because we're not subject to that authority. We've built it in an adjunct system. So that intuitively was a very powerful thing. And like Mark said, now we've set it up that way, but we're continually learning. And like Mark also said, this is an initiation. This is not something, because everyone loves this stuff. Everyone agrees with it. Everyone wants it. But to actually have the confidence to follow through and be able to separate yourself from this matrix, which is what it is. We can be all, I am unbelievably optimistic to where things are going, like to an extraordinary degree. Like I'm super excited by it. But it's not going to happen by people not doing the work. You can't just sit on your hands and wait for these saviors to come in to protect your money, to protect your property, to protect your businesses, and expect there not to be consequences. Because the whole point of this is that it's what's happening in the world in this matrix is about awakening yourself, that sovereign self, which is actually a deeply spiritual thing. And this is where we have to view this from the physical, from the emotional, from the spiritual perspective. That's what sovereignty is. It's not just I'll be able to take my money out of the system and not pay tax, which is voluntary, by the way. People get that, and it lights them up when they hear it. But then, what do you actually do to have to be confident enough to follow that through? What do you have to do to be confident enough to not be involved with the banking system? What do you have to do to be confidently not have to listen to doctors? And this power of attorney, what happened in COVID is that people who were mildly ill were sent in and given remdesivir or whatever it was, put on ventilators because their partner didn't have the power of attorney to say no. Because you're registered and your name in all caps belongs to the state, they own you. They own you. They own your house. They own your money. They own your marriage, everything. So when you actually go in, the power of attorney belongs to the state. And therefore, that supersedes any supposed connection or authority that you think you and your spouse have. And so technically learning how to go in and then bring yourself out of that system. And, you have your public life and your private life. And what I love talking to, the people in our group about is just, you don't have to get rid of this. It's not all or nothing straight away, but you do have to start growing this private life, growing the aspect of you that is not subject to this authoritarian, draconian system that we're in. And as optimistic as we are, and I am, that is not going away in the short term. And until enough people actually start to do the work in terms of reclaiming it for themselves and standing in their power as actual men and women, then it's not going to happen. And that's why I'm really passionate about this.
Gary, I'm glad you brought this up about the private and the public together. I've been saying for years, one of my biggest challenges with the movement, it's an authentic movement about moving us to the private, is they took an all or nothing approach. And I think it really got us in a lot of trouble, and a lot of people in trouble. And I love what you said, because I've been saying for years, if you're going to move into the private, you need to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I call it 1 foot in legal, 1 foot in lawful. Even when you're doing lawsuits, you can do a legal lawsuit, but write common law language and then push it over to affidavits, and they work parallel to each other. So I'm so glad you said that, because you do have to have 1 foot in both to transition completely out is what the goal is. And I believe that's what you're saying. Is that right?
Yeah. And look at the elites have done this for millennia. Okay. They actually are private.
Right?
Huh?
Deletes.
Yeah, that's what we got to do. But in order to do that, we do have to use, again, there's the energy of where the world is now and the consciousness now is not in the fight and destroy. It's in to create and build these systems that just so outperform the ones that went before that it's a no-brainer to go to this new system. So
we're talking about a parallel society, correct?
Yeah, but and Live 5D is a bridge. And certain aspects of this world are bridges, like you could say, gold and silver, even though it's existed forever. Right now, it's a bridge from the old world into this new world.
Brilliant.
So that we need to use their tools against them. And so the idea of this trust law, where you can protect yourself in an actual a proper private trust, is extremely powerful, because it's how all the kings and queens never pay inheritance tax, so, and it's how during COVID they could all go and, these big groups, because they all went to private members clubs. So they know these things. And when enough of the people, the men and women of the world, wake up to this and they start to create these systems, then that just falls apart. But it does need a critical mass to be to
It
be aware
does.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, Nash. Yeah, I feel like you're the genius behind the scenes for some reason. So I think it's time to get to you, and let's see what you say.
About what?
Yeah, anything. I don't know. American football, whatever you want to
Where do we
cover.
want to start? Yeah, so I'm just here to back up everything that Gary and Mark were saying. And, there is this sort of transitioning period that we're experiencing now. You could liken it in energy work where you could talk about it leaving the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. You could go in many different directions, but the mechanism by which this happens is through common law, natural law, and and recognizing and bringing back our law as it was meant to be.
Mhm.
And bringing that forward. It never did go away. So, if we go back to the Civil War, you've got the creation effectively of the federal government, which was always an international admiralty maritime um, jurisdiction, and that was what it was built to do. And it's never done anything different. It's Everyone says, "What happened to my government? What happened?" Nothing. The Confederation of States, not the Confederacy, is the one that
Right.
removed itself. They adjourned. And from that point forward, you have emergency powers, you have trading with the enemy, later on, and then you got Administrations Act of 1946, War Powers Act of 1948, and this consistent situation where we go into emergency powers in every state of the union every year, yada, yada, yada. Well, the federal government's not doing anything nefarious, in my opinion, on paper, in the black and white. They're doing exactly what their program was set up to do. The unfortunate part is the Confederation of States has been adjourned, and there's no kennel master holding that power anymore. So that power is lacking. And so we go around saying, well, we're being misused. It's color of law, it's fraud, it's all this stuff. Well, even trust law, any man-made law is fiction. Anything less than God's law is a fiction.
Yes.
So we're going to utilize these fictions, even under the Declaration of Independence. What I would call the 5 organic laws is what we're going to use to bring forward our law. What people would refer to as sovereign law is the law of the land. Natural law belongs in the jurisdiction of the land. You've got 3 jurisdictions: land, air, and water. And that goes back to the ecclesia, that goes to canon law, that goes to our natural law. So, first of all, I would just like to say that it's not an against, for or against. It's an awakening. It's an awareness. And we've been submerged by our own, I would say, our own consent, and not bringing our law forward, and not standing our law, and not knowing our law in a wide, deep way. And that's how we got here, by consent, by express consent. We didn't get here through subversion and these sorts of things. I do think there is some color of law. We've made lots of mistakes along the way. There's lots of controversy. A lot of people done some bad things. A lot of people done some good things. But the truth of the matter is, we need to bring back our state assemblies in the United States. We would need to bring back our Confederation of States. And at that point, what are we doing? We're now reaffirming the law that is already there. The Federation of States exists. The Union of States exists right now, at this moment. So the only thing missing is that Confederation of States. So that gets into the heart of bringing back our lawful stance. But when we want to look to traverse from this public stance as an individual or a person or a taxable event into the private, that does take a certain understanding. And to understand that you have a fictional aspect of you that has a public face, and there's a private side of you that has always been natural man and woman. And so we use trust law to do this. We use compelled performance through equity. And I don't mean inclusion equity, the kind of woke side of stuff. I'm talking about exclusive equity. I'm talking about equity and jurisprudence. These systems of remedy have always been there. And so when we apply them in the proper way, in the proper channel, we can come back out of being this public chattel, and we can come back and stand on our lawful rights. It's not that difficult to do. Actually, the common law process in most counties is a very simple process of giving notice, because as the natural man and woman, we have one duty to the nation, and that's to keep the peace. That's all. That's it. So how do we do that? We give notice. If you're going to throw a carnival on your 10 acres next to your neighbors, and you're not going to let them know until the day of, they're going to be a little irritated. So give them notice. That's it. And by giving notice, you've kept the peace. So as we bring forward a private association, private finance, ministries, trust arrangements, these are at least 1,000-year-old systems that already exist, as Gary alluded to earlier. We're not doing anything really technically out of the box. All we're doing is opening our eyes and recognizing the tools that have always been there, and we have let them lay out to pasture and rust. And so we don't have to think in this sort of way that it's us against them or this fight or any of that. And matter of fact, I would like to state that if you're going to seek peace in your life, it's peace you must demonstrate. And if we're going to demonstrate that peace, well, we may want to be careful about when we decide to clench our fist and rattle cages. I think there's a time and a place for it. And we might be nearing that place. I will agree. However, I think a lot of this contention and fight goes away very rapidly when people have the tools to do something. A lot of people just don't do anything until they decide they're going to. Build a house, ride a bike, learn law, learn about trust, be private, and truly do it. I was in the Marine Corps. I was a reconnaissance Marine, and I once turned to one of my drill instructors prior, and then one of my and then another instructor later in the BRC course, and he said, the only difference between you high speed low drag boys and the infantry is that you just want to be there more, and that's it. You want to be private, then go be private and figure it out. One of the equitable maxims is that you acquiesce effectively. I won't be doing the maxim justice here, but we acquiesce by sitting on our hands. If we don't come forward and let our neighbors know, or our government, which is ours, how we feel and what we think it should be doing, and stand on those principles and maxims and law, then we're effectively acquiescing to their demands. And most of us will get letters in the mail, we'll get presentments, and they seem like threats. And what do? We bury our head in the sand because we're too busy running on the hamster wheel. If you've ever played chess in a competitive manner, you punch the clock and the burden of time. Then we have that power in the statutory world, in the lawful world. Let's use the tools we have. So I know I may not be getting to the nitty gritty of how we bring about ourselves in this private way, but you're right to touch on we exist in multiple jurisdictions at the same time. And if you want to live just on the land and be supremely private, there's a way to do that, and it will take some time. But you certainly don't have to do it all in one day, and you're not going to eat an elephant in one sitting. And when you realize these adhesion contracts, from starting at the driver's license, moving forward, for most of us, we've come forward as a beneficiary, signing documents and contracts. And I do mean signing, not autographing, but signing with a signature. Mm-hmm. In a commercial, fictional straw man, if you want to call it that, your fictional you comes forward and assumes a position of trustee, signing obligatory contracts of performance as a trustee. So you're in breach of trust from about 16 forward most of the time if you're using that social security number, that birth certificate, and you're going to be, now you need to start unwinding these things. So if you're 50 something like I am, you're or older, I mean, you have this footprint, this trail of express consent. It's not implied, it's express,
Mhm.
because you expressly accepted these obligations and you moved forward with them. So we work through different metrics to bring you into the private. We work in trust arrangements. We do equitable rescissions, rescissioning not rescinding, but rescissioning is to absolutely vaporize old agreements. And there is a number of different factors we get into that are deep inside the course and in the classes. We'll be showing people how to utilize these things. Also, financial freedom is a big one, and learning how to use silver and gold, learning how to use the various Federal Reserve notes as long as they last. They are too a fiction. However, we can use them for our privacy if done correctly. So, yeah, that's a large nutshell, but I'll just
Perfect.
leave it at that, and I yield.
So I'll ask a couple questions, and just to put everybody on notice, we have about 15 minutes, just so you know. Just a couple things. First, Semper Fi, Nash. I have two of our sons are Marines as well. Appreciate that, and we understand that's a two-sided coin too. Um,
Yes.
Now, when you're referring to the adjournment of the Confederation of States, I'm assuming you're referring to 1789. Is that right? Okay, where
Yes.
they didn't all show up and vote, and therefore it was adjourned, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Okay, and I have one personal question, and then I want to get on to a question about land trust, and then the tools that you have, which are phenomenal. Here's a personal question: as me running in the corporate system for Governor of California, I believe one of the quickest ways to get us to where we need to be is you need an insider to kind of tear down the system, right? If that will help if we can get into there and reset the structure that we have. Is any recommendations in regards to that for me, or language that I could use to help accelerate us to move, or at least the recognition to move everybody into the private? Because I understand
That's
that's
going to be
contradictory to what
difficult.
we're talking about here.
As you know, the de jure government. Whoop, we had a little delay there. The de jure government is already ours, we the people, and we're already in
Right.
some capacity. We stand in that fictional public, but it's a society that's built on natural law, not built on this, corporate overlay.
Right.
So when you're running for your position, you're dealing with the de facto government. You're dealing
Mhm.
with state of California. You're not dealing with the California Republic.
Right.
So yeah, that's going to be big and daunting, especially. I don't know if you have to break down the system, but you certainly need to work back across the aisle. And I don't mean Republican or Democrat.
I know exactly
I
what you
mean
mean.
from
Yes,
de facto to de jure.
exactly.
Yeah. So, one of the things Trump ran on was this idea of bringing back the republic. Well, I don't see him sitting in Pennsylvania yet, so I'm still a little concerned, right?
That's right.
Uh, you
Right.
know, I want to see real movement, and most of us in America do. There's some very good things happening, some very bad things happening, some very questionable things happening. So in that
Mhm.
way, it's business as usual, right? We don't really know what's going on. But if you want to reach out from a de facto seat and you want to start to fix in your words, you said you might have to break it down from the inside. And what you would
Mhm.
be breaking down are the corporate barriers
Exactly. Okay.
to a republic that needs to function for the people, by the people. And it's going to be difficult to even get to that place, even just with the way that we vote currently. So I think voting, and how our votes are, how we go about voting, that's a big one. So we don't need to beat that dead horse, but I would say that you almost have to get to the Constitution which is to me the third Constitution. You have the original
Mhm.
for the United States, which was rapidly smashed. And then you've got the British version, which is lowercase t, lowercase United States. And then you have the Vatican's version, which is United States, all caps. We've got 3 constitutions. Which one are we using? Why don't you start there? And then from there, start unraveling them. And we could do without those subcontracts. The Constitution is a sub-agreement, in my opinion, to the British territorial government. So, in my opinion, what we need to do is go back to what they call the 4 organic laws. I'm going to state here that it's the 5 organic laws, because they love to leave out the Articles of Association, which are, you can't do without the Articles of Association. They start with the Articles of Confederation, go all the way to the 5th being the Constitution. But then if you want to remove that one and then start with the 4 organic laws. And now let's go back and redraft our Constitution. I like that story.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way to do that, or to amend it, or to recognize the faults and untie these things in a rescissionary sort of way through equitable remedy to fix the mistakes. And they were mistakes. They were mutual mistakes that have been made. We start by healing ourselves there. And from there, the de jure and the de facto can then start to work together. Look, in a perfect world, we don't get rid of international Admiralty maritime law. We use it on the high seas and to trade. I should say commerce. Trade and exchange belongs in the jurisdiction of the land. But you can trade on the high seas. And that's what that federal government is built for. We want to have an intercourse with other nations. We want to be able to have protection and this outer castle wall. And that's where that federal government is very, very important, very powerful. And it doesn't just go away. But the fact is, you've got a system that ran. It's a dog built for fighting. And we just let it run amok. And we did not grab the chain and pull it back. We being the people.
You're the people.
So our de jure government has been standing down for, 165 years, let's say. We need to build that bridge back. And it's just a balancing. It's not an us or them. It's not a this or that. It's not a contentious thing. It's simply balancing the jurisdictions so that we can live freely, and then we can use, as a sole proprietor, our fiction, which attaches to that federal government for international trade. There's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just we're lopsided. So my that's what I would recommend, that we try to build a more balanced system between the federal government and the true republic. And I don't think it's that difficult. All the metrics, all the mechanisms are there. We just simply need to acknowledge it once more and make some amendments, make some fixes, and I think our culture will heal from that point forward.
Excellent. No, that's beautiful. So let's get into, we have just a few minutes here, but let's get into some of the tools and mechanisms that would help us, we the people, make this transition for this. And Mark, Gary, or Nash can all jump in here, because I think it's very, very important. I personally don't know how to do all of this. I know a little bit of it, so I would love to know what we're talking about here. Go ahead, guys.
Can I ask you, if you put the link near the video, Lewis?
The link will be below for sure.
Okay, so there's a link below, and I just want to explain that we're delivering this course over 5 separate sessions, starting on October the 19th, which is in 8 days, the 26th, November the 2nd, 16th, and 23rd. And there will be live sessions, but if people click that link, that's how you join the course, and you can join at any time. If you miss anything, everything will be recorded and put inside an online members area, so you're not going to miss it. But it's great to come to the live calls, because then you can do Q&As with us. I just want to make sure everybody understood that, and as you can tell from the way Nash speaks, this is like amazingly important stuff, right?
Well, here's why I'm very excited, and I just want to say this really, really quick. As Mark, you and I know, we've had these discussions, I think, in depth. I've talked to probably every top, or many, many top common law, let's say common law type people.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest challenge I've always had is they're trying to make a leap, not a transition. And this is one of the first times I've really talked about the transition and how these can work parallel and with each other. And this is why I'm here to show this, and I have so much passion about this. I'm going to take the course myself, regardless of my campaign. I'm going to figure out time to do it, because this is the first time I've ever been excited, because I really believe in my soul. Divine has been telling me, God has been telling me for a long time that it must be interacted together. So very excited about this. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, but I just jump in because
Now, before you do that, and somebody's just commented saying the link to the course just says doesn't look like the link's there properly. Just so you know.
Okay, we'll make sure we fix it for
Sorry, Gary.
sure.
Yeah,
And
so
I'll put it in the comments too.
so I mean, that's the thing with this. You know, one of the reasons I wanted to discourse with the American audience was because Nash is, he's actually a deeply spiritual person, and that was actually what we connected on. First of all, in terms of our conversations, and this stuff is very deep, and it can be technical, and that's important because to understand it, to put the commitment in, to do the work is really key. But the most key thing and the best tool ever is knowing that it's internal and that it's you, and being in a kind of community and a group that it demonstrates that. Because it's like I'm thinking, listen to Nash explain what you to do and as governor, but it's like you go in there and you're like Neo in the Matrix, and you feel that way, and you feel different than the rest, and just your energy is what affects the rest, and can transmute that and can change that, and you do have to stand with that, super power, superhuman ability, and not superhuman, superman ability, so that you have the confidence then to work in the private, to this works with relationships as well, and it works with your finances, is a huge amount, and having, like I said, the confidence then to just exist in whatever world you choose is really, really important.
But that's a good example. There's it's not relationships, relations.
Yeah,
There are no ships.
exactly. Yeah, and it's little words like this that that it's where if you see these things and you watch a few videos and you get it, no one's going to actually dig in and do the work, and then you constantly do catch yourself. So it's, like I said, doing this over a certain period of time and learning it and having the foundation there is just a fantastic tool for all aspects of your life. And as Nash said, the thing here is your property and your finances. You see what happened in the stock market yesterday, how manipulated the whole thing is. With this mechanism, you can literally transact in the private, fully private, with silver, so your money is actually your own, in terms of how to protect your property, your land, inheritance tax. All these things now are key, and it's very important that right now we are protecting ourselves, and this is an amazing resource for that.
Excellent. Hey, folks, just so you know, I just fixed the link. So just if you're live, just refresh your browser. If you're watching a recording, you're good to go. I already tested it.
Cool. Yeah, so this is important stuff, and we, I think every one of us is beholden to us to learn as much as we possibly can, and it's not about being perfect, but when you meet somebody with Nash's passion and knowledge, we just had to jump on it because we're still learning.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I post answered my question that I asked Nash about what I could do most, and the reality is I need to take the flipping course. That's the answer to my question.
We need to take the course as well. That's why we're.
I'm just sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake. Anybody want? We have a couple minutes here if you guys want to continue a little bit. This is fascinating. I can't overstate how excited I am to finally see that it's not that I was right. It was just a feeling I had that it just wasn't going the right way for people. And a lot of people were getting in trouble before too, I think, because they were jumping with both feet in, and this is just brilliant. I'm very excited about this.
I wanted to mention what Gary mentioned. We'll get into language, word craft to a certain extent, because that is what denotes the jurisdiction that you're in. And when you begin writing your notices, you begin operating in the private, it's absolutely important that you have an understanding of things like relationships. A ship belongs in the water. So when you see that little ship show up at the end of mentorship, relationship, whatever it may be, this is just a little peek into some of the things we do, but it's a good one. Ships belong on the ocean. The ocean is the international maritime jurisdiction. It's commerce. You're recognizing yourself as a fiction. When you are man, spiritually discerned man, you have relations. You don't have relationships, right? So understanding that language, and that's just one simple one. If you're in commerce, you buy and sell and trade. When you are in the jurisdiction of the land, you convey for consideration, honorarium or gifts. You do not buy, sell, or trade. Okay, so that's just a little splash there, but we'll go deep dive into the languages, crafting your own notices, and understanding the jurisdiction that you stand in, so that you're speaking the proper language to convey the proper message.
Yeah, I love it. In fact, we're going to have to fly here, but the way that the Babylonian black magic language, as I call it, they flip everything on its head, just like you said. So even now, if you were to say relations with somebody, they think you were talking about sex, right? Because that's how they've taken it and flipped it on its head, which is very common when we're using the proper language, how it's manipulated. Guys, quick word from each one of you. And I apologize for having to go, but I have a very important recording that I have to do for this governorship thing.
Well, yeah, it's not governorship.
Oh, that's right.
It's a governorship.
Well,
no, it is a governorship. We're talking de facto here.
But frankly, it's interesting you say that. We renamed it as I Will Be Guardian. I'm not interested in governing anybody whatsoever. I just want to protect we the people and bring forward everything you're talking about. Thank you, Mark, for that slap in the face. You're always good for that.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Lewis, for getting us on to talk about it. As you guys watching can see, this is like going to be amazing and a real good tool in your box.
Yep. Just click that link below. Gary, any final words from you?
Yeah, I'm just the power of this stuff. I would say I have another mentor here in Ireland who recently is the first person in Ireland to do this, and he bought a property, and in the contract he put in 10 ounces of silver. And so his thing is he's trading value for value, because the cash that he gave to that sale is meaningless and it will disappear. Like the American dollar has lost 90% of its value in the last 30 years, that's not going to stop. So he has a low deal claim on his property. He has the deeds, but he didn't sign the transfer agreement, and he has a flag with his coat of arms hoisted in the property, which is an estate. So it's not in Ireland, which is the Corporation of Ireland, which is the Corporation of the United States, which is the Corporation of United Kingdom. So learning this stuff gives, this is what I'm saying. It's how much you are powering up yourself, but having the knowledge to do it is what gives you the confidence, and then your life absolutely transforms. And that's what I would say. It's a fantastic thing to do.
Excellent. Nash, appreciate you. Gary, Mark, this is fantastic, guys. Just click on the link below and go for it. This is how we have to make this transition. As I've said before, President Trump has given us a clue a long time ago. He said legally and lawfully. And I believe this is what we're talking about. God bless everybody. Thank you for your time, guys. We're out for now.
Thanks, Lewis. Thanks,
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
If tomorrow